Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Rebecca, and thank you for joining me for this brief yoga practice to open the hips. We'll be using lizard pose and yogi squat or Malasana to bring some openness to the hips. We'll also be using a block and a strap for this practice, so you might like to have those handy. So take just a moment, gather what you need, and I'll see you on the mat. We'll be starting today in child's pose. So you can bring your knees out to the wide edges of the mat. Allow the big toes to touch. Stretch the arms out long and sink the hips back toward the heels. And we'll just begin by taking some deep breaths here, snuggling down toward the heels, dropping ourselves into our bodies. Just taking a moment to catch up with ourselves. And taking a few deep breaths here, inhaling all the way down to the bottom of the belly. And then exhaling, allowing the belly to deflate like a balloon. Taking two more breaths like that on your own. Making that breath you can hear in the back of your throat. That ujjayi breath. And then on our next inhale, we'll allow the breath to carry us up like a wave. And keeping the knees nice and wide here, we'll walk the hands back slightly, not quite underneath the shoulders, but just a bit closer, fingers nice and wide. And we'll allow the pelvis, the tailbone really, to tip up toward the ceiling, coming into a cat or a cow shape, coming into a cow shape. Inhaling here and exhaling as we rotate the pelvis under, pressing up into cat. And now coming back to our neutral spine, we'll allow our hips to sink back toward the right corner of the mat. Then move the hips over towards the left corner of the mat. And inhale as we come back up to cow pose. Exhaling, rotating that tailbone under slightly, moving toward the right corner and the left corner. Inhaling back up to cat and cow. So coming through this like a drunken cat-cow motion. Knees are nice and wide. Finding your cow pose at the top and rounding the spine into cat at the bottom. And you might take this in the other direction now. Really moving into the side body. Finding your exhale as you come back. Inhaling to come forward. And twice more with your own breath. And then allow yourself to come back up to a neutral spine, walking the knees in underneath the hip points, walking the hands out, a couple of handprints. We'll roll the toes under in the back and shift the hips up, downward facing dog. And you can begin to pedal out through the heels here if you like. Just bringing a little movement into the backs of the legs, pressing up and out of the mat, rotating the tailbone up towards the ceiling. And now we'll bring that to stillness, allowing the heels to relax down toward the floor, not needing to be concerned about whether or not the heels reach the floor, just allowing them to be heavy. And then bending the knees slightly, we'll shift the gaze forward and walk to the top of the mat, coming to meet in forward fold. Inhaling up halfway, nice straight long spine, and exhale back into the fold. And then on our next inhale, we'll sweep the arms up overhead as we come to stand. Hands come to heart center. And if you'd like to have some blocks handy for your lizard pose, you might take a moment to get those now and bring those to the top of your mat. And then coming back to Tadasana at the top of the mat. We'll allow the fingertips to drift down and then sweep up overhead. Exhale, coming into forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, release into the fold. Planting both hands, we'll step back to plank or half plank. And here you can come straight to your downward facing dog or come through a vinyasa. Inhaling up, baby cobra. Exhale, release. Shifting back up to plank or half plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. We'll allow the right leg to extend up as we inhale. Exhale, bringing that right leg through center, coming into a lunge here with the right leg forward. You can drop that left knee to the mat, taking the top of the left foot to the mat as well. And we'll allow that right foot to heel toe out to the edge of the mat, maybe even allowing the toes to spill off the mat slightly. And then just taking a moment here to sink the hips forward, maybe shifting the gaze forward. And even here, sometimes it's helpful to bring the floor up to you by having a block. So feel free to use what you need here. Hello, cat. Taking a couple of deep breaths. Maybe giving yourself a little extra space by allowing that knee to open out to the side. And then we'll take another deep breath here. And as we're exhaling, we'll bring ourselves down to our forearms or a block here. So find what you need coming into this low lizard pose. And again, if you need to make a little extra space, opening that knee to the outside slightly. A few deep breaths here. Nice. Inhaling back up, we can shift those blocks out of the way. And we'll heel toe that right leg back in between the hands, rolling back up on the toe and the back, planting the hands and shifting that leg out, coming back to downward facing dog. Taking just a moment here in our down dog. We'll shift the gaze forward, bending the knees slightly and walking the feet towards the middle of the mat. Bringing the feet out to the wide edges of the mat. We'll bring the fingertips back towards the feet, coming into this slightly wide leg forward fold. So extending long through the spine here, we'll take a deep breath, almost inhaling up halfway. And then as we're exhaling, we'll begin to sink the hips down, coming into our yogi squat or Malasana. So remember, your heels may be up slightly, toes may be pointing out. Perhaps it's even helpful to you to use a block underneath your sacrum for some support. So find what you need here, what works best for you. And bring the elbows to the insides of the knees, maybe pressing the palms actively into one another, pressing the knees into the elbows and the elbows into the knees, bringing this openness into the hips. Deep breath and exhale. One more deep breath and exhale. Allowing ourselves to shift forward, bringing the palms to the mat, maybe moving your props out of the way. Allow the hips to shift back up, walking the hands back to the top of the mat, walking the feet back, coming to downward facing dog. We'll inhale to plank. If you like, you can take a vinyasa here or just move back to down dog. Inhaling here and then bringing those elbows in, exhaling all the way down. Inhaling up, cobra or baby cobra. Exhale, release. Inhale, back to plank or half plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. And now inhaling that left leg up high. We'll exhale, bringing the left leg through the hands. Dropping the right knee to the mat. Right top of the foot presses into the mat. And then we'll heel toe that left leg out to the wide edge of the mat. Both hands come to the inside of the left foot. And again, if it's helpful to you, you can bring the floor to you with a block or just plant the hands. So finding what you need here. Shifting the hips forward, shifting the gaze forward. Opening the knee a little out to the left if you need to. Finding a couple of deep breaths. And then as we're exhaling, we'll come down to the forearms or perhaps come down to a block. Finding a little more sensation in this pose. And of course, this is only an invitation. So if you like to stay up on the hands, stay right where you are. Deep breaths. And one more breath. And then inhaling ourselves up from this pose, we'll shift the props out of the way if you've chosen to use those. Walking that left foot back in between the hands, rolling up on the toes, and shifting the left foot back, coming into downward facing dog. And taking just a moment here to reflect on how the hips feel, how the legs feel. And then shifting the gaze forward, we'll once again walk the feet up halfway, Bringing the feet out to the wide edges of the mat, walking the fingertips back towards the body, inhaling up to make a nice long straight spine, and then exhaling, sitting the hips down and finding your way into your Malasana or yogi squat. Maybe allowing yourself to close your eyes here for a moment. Bringing your focus to the breath. And then our yogi squat gives us a good starting point for practicing bakasana or crow pose. So we'll just play with that a little bit today. No need to take it too seriously, but moving the hands out in front will make the hands nice and wide like starfish. And then pressing into the hands will lift the hips and bring the knees toward the armpits as we bring the knees into the backs of the arms here. We're making this little shelf with the arm. And then just rolling the weight onto the hands here, really pressing into the palms of the hands, pulling the belly button into the spine. And maybe as you roll forward, you begin to raise one foot or then the other. Maybe not. Just allowing yourself to stay here may be enough for you today. So finding where you'd like to play today, knowing that it's just not important whether or not you fly in your crow today, but just building this heat and energy in the arms. And then when you're ready, allow that to release, rolling back, coming back into your yogi squat. Taking just a moment here to reflect and receive. And then we'll roll forward toward the hands again, planting the hands, lifting the hips up high, walking the hands out to the top of the mat, walking the feet back, coming back into downward facing dog and choosing to stay here for a couple of breaths, or you can inhale into plank and come through the last vinyasa of our practice. Finding your way home to downward facing dog. And then shifting the gaze to the top of the mat. You can walk or maybe hop to the top of the mat, coming into forward fold. And from our forward fold, we'll allow the hips to sink down, way down, coming down onto our toes into this seed pose. Taking just a moment here and then planting one hand in front and the other hand around behind. We'll just gently help ourselves find a seat on the mat. And then rolling back onto the back, bringing the knees into the chest, rolling out through the lower back. And then bringing the soles of the feet to the floor. And at this point, if you have a strap handy, that'd be a good time to grab that. If you don't have a strap today, that's okay. You can just hold on to the leg, and I'll talk to you about that as we move along. And so now planting the left sole of the foot into the floor, we'll bring the right foot up, bringing the strap or towel around the ball of the foot. If you don't have a towel here or a strap, you can just hold on to the calf. Your knee may be slightly bent, or your knee may be very bent. That's okay too. So just coming into a bit of a hamstring stretch, allowing the shoulders to be heavy and the neck to be relaxed. And then we'll take both of the straps in the right hand, taking the left hand to the left hip or opening out wide to the side. We'll inhale here, and as we're exhaling, allow this leg to open out to the right side. A couple of deep breaths here. And then inhaling that leg back up overhead. We'll release the strap, allowing that right sole of the foot to come back down to the mat. And taking our strap or towel around the ball of the left foot, holding on to both sides of the strap or towel, or holding on to the calf, letting the shoulders relax. And then taking both of those straps in the left hand will allow the left leg to open out to the side. And as another alternative, or if you're dealing with a small space, as I am today, you can bend 90-degree angle at the knee and then open the leg out to the side at the hip without the leg extended. So always variations, ways for your practice to meet you where you are in your body and in your space. And then inhaling to bring that leg back up. We'll shift that strap out to the side. Once again, bringing both knees into the chest. And then allowing the soles of the feet to come to touch. We'll lower the feet down to the mat, coming into this reclined Baddha Konasana, reclined butterfly pose. And just allow yourself to settle in here, maybe bringing that natural curve back into the lower spine. Just allowing yourself to relax, allowing gravity to do the work of opening the hips. Bringing in openness and receptivity and flexibility. And you might want to bring one hand to the chest and the other to the belly. And just allow yourself a couple of breaths. Nothing to do here other than relax and allow your hips to be opened by gravity. And if you're not comfortable in this pose, you can also come to a reclined rest pose with the feet towards the outer edges of the mat and the knees resting in on each other. And now, from wherever you found yourself, allowing the legs to close, We'll bring the knees back into the chest one last time. And then allow the legs to extend out long. Shoulders coming underneath the back. Palms facing upward. Coming into our Shavasana. And just allow yourself to become heavy and sink into the floor here. Allowing your legs to be heavy and relaxed. Allowing your palms to gently open. Shoulders relaxing away from the ears. Allowing the skin of your face to become soft and your teeth to part. And taking a moment in this relaxed and open state to just enjoy the benefits of your practice. And if you'd like to take a little extra time past the end of this video today to rest here in Shavasana, I invite you to do that. And if you need to bring your practice to a close, you can bring a little movement into your fingers and toes. Maybe stretch out long, extending the arms overhead. Roll yourself to one side. Taking your time, getting up here. No need to rush. And then when you're ready, pressing yourself up back to a seated position and bringing your hands to heart center. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me today. I hope this brought you a little flexibility and openness in the hips, and that you're able to bring that openness into the rest of your day. And may your yoga follow you off the mat.